Hey, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly back at again with my first CFB 27 video. So if you guys are excited for the new football season with all the content, be sure to smash a like on this video. And early comment question of the day, what of my OG series are you guys most pumped to see return? Is the How To Dynasty series, a series where I give you the best tips and tricks to improve your online and offline Dynasty experience. That way you guys can win more games and generally improve. Or is it my potential Prodigy series, a series in which I give you the stats and the general numbers and what to look for when you're recruiting prospects. That way you can find a lot more elite dev and startup prospects and leave the impact dev and normal dev prospects to your online or offline league mates. In my sneaky third series, the testing series, where I go in and explain a perk or show you how it works and all that fun, more Mythbusters-esque series. Which one of those three are you guys most pumped to see return to the channel? And yes, while we're also yapping with the intro, disclaimer, this episode is going to be really long. I have a lot of things to get off my chest. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions of the Dynasty experience in CFB 27. So this video is not going to be short. To apologize, treat it like a podcast. Throw me in the background while you're doing, chores, exercise, your job, whatever you're doing. Throw me in the background. I got a lot of yapping, a lot of things to do, and I'm not going to try to cut out too much because I kind of want to cover everything I have felt about playing this game since the launch. So with all that aside, let's go ahead and hop into this very long video. So basically, what is the point of this video? This is going to be me covering pretty much all the good and bad of Dynasty in CFB 27. And unfortunately, I am not an EA shill. I am not in the content creator program. EA pays me $0.00 to speak positively about the game because they know I would never do that. No, I would never muzzle myself for a sponsorship. If I like your product, I will tell you I like your product and I will promote your stuff to other people. And if your game sucks, I will happily say to your face, your game sucks and you guys need to do better. This video is more of the latter than the former, but that's where we are. Basically, what is wrong with the Dynasty experience in CFB 27? Well, first of all, let's just go into the current debacle that may or may not have just got fixed by the time you are watching this video. Don't know why that menu took 35 seconds to load. Added to the list of problems with this game. So I'm recording this video on July 11th. At around 2 p.m., EA, about 5 or so hours ago, removed microtransactions from Road to Glory and online/offline Dynasty. Good job, EA. You did something no one asked for you to do, and you removed it because it was a massive problem. Good job. However, in typical EA fashion, did they remove the pay-to-win aspects of the game? Yes. However, what they didn't do is fix the Coach XP sliders, so we still have the current Coach XP sliders, which are slow, slower, and slowest. I know that's not what it actually says, but they nerfed the base XP rates to where it will take you about 22 to 25 seasons of nonstop winning to achieve a level 100 coach, which is absolutely preposterous considering this is the third year in a row that the Dynasty cap, if you want to call it, is still set to 30 seasons. So let me get this straight, EA. Again, good job at removing the microtransactions that nobody asked you to put into the game, but you specifically ruined the base features of the game to heavily incentivize people to then spend money. You remove the money, but you didn't fix the XP. So it's still taking a player on average 22 to 25 seasons of a 30-year dynasty before you ever see a level 100 coach. What are we doing? Like, you thought the most easiest layup in the world for EA to salvage their, brand, to salvage their relationship to their audience would be, okay, guys, we did try to shovel microtransactions into here. You guys called our bluff. You guys called us out, called our bluff, yada, yada, yada. Let's go ahead and fix it. We'll give you the faster and fastest settings again. We will remove the microtransactions, and we will get to working on the plethora of bugs and issues in this game that I will be, talking about today. Nope, they removed the money, but still keep the just disgusting XP rates. So congratulations if you ever want to have a really full coach build. If you guys are curious why we're several days post-launch and I don't have my best coach build video yet, blame EA, because it's taking me about 25 to 30 years to make a level 100 coach. I don't have a lot of wiggle room to then make my build, test the build, see if it works before I give it to you guys. So I'm not going to release a half-baked product. If I don't believe in the build, I'm not going to release the video. I know I'm technically losing clicks and engagement and all that fun stuff by me delaying my content, but I'm not going to make slop just for the sake of clicks and views. So there you go. Blame EA for why a lot of your content has been delayed so far into this life cycle. But yeah, already out the gate, very bad start. Right? Nerfing the base coach XP rate, basically making coaches like recruiters impossible to use. The recruiting tree, will cover the perks in a bit, has already got nerfed for a second year in a row, which is already bad to nerf recruiter. But how it currently works is you really have to pick the coach perks that progress your coach. Otherwise, you're really not going to level up. And Recruiter is one of the worst coaching trees in the game to earn XP. On average, if you have like a really good season, you'll get maybe 5 to 10,000 XP, which is like half a level after, or a quarter of a level after a certain point. It's virtually nothing. Tactician's the same boat. Tactician, you get like 1,000 per win. So if you go 16-0, you'll have about what is that, like about 16-ish, 15-ish thousand XP, which is again a quarter to half a level past a certain point. Motivators of the base 3, probably the best you got, because you can get tens of thousands there, but you get the point. XP is just a massive problem, which will then cause other things to be a problem. Now, there are more problems with this screen, but unfortunately, I will save them towards later on. Trust me, there's a lot to cover in this video. I'm going to try to keep under an hour, but I doubt I will. This will probably end up being a nightmare. Coach mode, I will give them this W for coach mode. That way you can call the plays and have the CPU play itself, because as someone like me who likes to build a team, and I know I can drop 85 points on the computer, it's not very hard. I've played the game my entire life. Playing the CPU at this point, not very challenging. So going in and calling the play like a coach and having the CPU play it out, a cool feature. Don't like the camera mode or the camera angles of either of these modes. I wish we could keep the regular camera angle of the regular game where I'm staring like from the, eagle side of the QB. I wish that was an option, right? I know it's not realistic to have that POV, but it's a video game, right? I would much rather have the camera angle I'm more familiar with, or the camera angle I like, versus the two that we get. One of them is zoomed way too far back and you really can't see anything. And then one, you really also can't see anything because you're standing on the sidelines, which again is cool for like 5 minutes. But when you can't see what's going on in front of you, it's kind of hard to call an effective play and to do things properly when you can't visually see what the hell's going on. And again, I know it's realistic, but can there be an option for me to just change my camera angle to the original, to the one everybody uses when you're playing the game? It'd be cool, but I guess it'd be a W kind of, but wish there was more features. Wear and tear, again, we'll cover all this fun stuff later on. Transfer portal, you betcha we're going to have a lot to yap about this damn thing. It's freaking horrible. And yeah, that should be all the settings for now. Let's go ahead and cover into the next major pain point of this game. So we just kind of covered how the coach XP is a massive, massive, massive problem when playing. The other really big problem is Rainmaker and Visionary are the pre-order / MVP plus membership stuff. This is disgusting, right? EA removed the microtransactions to level up your coach. However, they are not going to change the Rainmaker / Visionary trees. Are these trees overpowered? Are they game breaking? No, I don't believe it's pay to win. I don't believe any of that. I think it does help you when you're playing the game, obviously, but I believe you can easily play this game without Rainmaker or Visionary and be just fine. I think this is kind of like a 0.5, where there are some skill trees in this game that are significantly better. There are some skill trees that are significantly worse, and this is kind of in that mid-range of like, if I can afford it, I'll buy it. If I don't want it, I'm not going to buy it. It's not the end of the world. But what is the end of the world is the damn coach point inflation. Coach point inflation, I don't know why in the hell I have to deal with in real life inflation, where I go to my local grocery store, get a carton of eggs, a gallon of milk, and a loaf of bread, and that shit will cost me $88 in my left kidney. Like, I don't understand why in real life I have to deal with, horrible inflation. But then in this game, there's also inflation. As you guys know, last year in CP26, the quote-unquote cheap perks cost you 8 points per, and the expensive coach points cost you 12 points per. This year, the cheap ones now go 15, 20, 25, 30, which adds up to be a ton. And then the expensive ones, I believe, 25, 30, 35, 40. But beastly, it's not really inflation because they increased how many coach points you get. I literally debunked this within the first 3 hours of the, playing the beta. But essentially how it worked last year, to buy the entire motivator tree in CFP 26, it cost you 256 tokens, which again, proportionally, you had 1,000 total tokens. So about 25%, again, with rounding, was your coach build to buy one entire tree. In this game, to buy the entire motivator tree like it was last year, you're going to have to spend 720 tokens, which is a lot of tokens, which is about 30% of your total effective build, right? That 5% inflation, that 5% hike may not sound like a ton, but that scales everywhere, right? because the cheap perks are now 5% more expensive, the expensive perks are now significantly more expensive, right? Again, the base perks last year were 12 per, so to buy an entire category was almost 50 or so points, whereas now to buy the entire category, you're spending like almost 100. It's actually, you're spending over 100, right? 30 is 60, 60 and 40 is 100. You're spending 130-ish points for one entire subsection of the tree, let alone the entire tree. So the inflation is crazy, and this extends also into Program Builder. These perks used to cost 16 points per, now they cost 40. So the base trees are 5% more expensive. The expensive trees, I'm not doing the math, are significantly more expensive. And then you have these perks, which are 3 to 4 times the price they used to be. So it's like, congratulations, EA, you gave me more coach points to work with my build, but you actually didn't give me more coach points because I'm spending more points to do the same stuff I was doing last year. Speaking of EA inflation, because again, I don't know why in a video game I have to deal with the developers shackling me in my sandbox PvE mode where I'm playing the damn computer most of the time, so why does it matter how overpowered I am? Either way, I digress. As you guys can see, I started with Motivator, right? I'm going to go in, and actually, before I go in, you guys can see I'm not level 10 yet. I don't meet that requirement. However, if you look at Recruiter, it now costs 50 tokens to buy a new tree. So to recap, it now costs significantly more to buy the cheap perks. It costs significantly more to buy the expensive perks. It costs a ridiculous amount to buy the very good perks, which is CEO and Program Builder. Now it's going to cost you your arm and a leg just to even pivot into a second and third tree, right? This used to not be this expensive, right? This was not 50 tokens for your second coach tree. And what's crazy is, as you'll see, I'll buy Rainmaker in a moment. There you go. This will make everything scales to a unbelievable amount. As you guys will see, now it jumped from 50 points per to 75 tokens. It's like EA is trying to force you to basically be a specialist and only buy 1, maybe 2 coach trees, perks, whatever, per rebuild, which is just so stupid. CFB 26 did this so well. If you didn't care to min-max your build in CFB 26, you can buy basically 2 full trees and a half of another one. And if you did min-max your build, you can buy 3 full trees, actually basically 3.5 full trees, along with CEO and Program Builder perks. Now in this game, you're struggling just to get 2 trees, which is insane. And again, it's going to take about 25 years to do that. So enjoy the suck, man, or just, don't play the game. But yeah, who in the hell greenlit this? Right? Why are you punishing people for actually having fun, diverse coach builds and just basically forcing us, tunneling us into, you got to do this one thing and you got to like it? It's like, who thought of this? Like, actually, this is so stupid. It's dumb. It's very dumb. And again, we're 15 minutes into what's probably going to end up being a 2-hour yap session. So be sure to slap a like on this section. But Beastly, who cares if it takes way too long to level up your coach? Who cares if there's coach inflation and you can't really have the builds you used to have because the game doesn't want you to have fun? Who cares? Let's go ahead and talk about the brand new, what is this called? Like the program overview, the Dynasty Blueprint, whatever nonsense EA came up with this stuff. Let's go ahead and cover this section, or the NIL section. This also is atrocious. I don't know why I was making fun of content creators towards the end of the lifespan of CFB 26. I was telling people, I can tell every single college football content creator who didn't actually play Madden, who was parading, hey, I want NIL, I want the money into the game, truly never played franchise mode. Because if you've ever played franchise mode, whether you played this year, last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it doesn't matter when. But EA cannot code people properly to spend and or budget properly. Shocker, they introduce NIL or money into this game, and the CPU can't budget properly. You're having CPU like Ohio State spend 4,000 to 5,000 NIL points on recruiting classes that you can get as a person for the same amount of players for like a quarter of the price. It's just insane how the CPU has no regard for its own budget, which leads to it going bankrupt 1 to 2 years down the road, which is just killing your entire dynasty. Right? You'll have teams like Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama, who should be perennial 95 pluses, struggle to hit the 90s because they can't financially afford the people they're paying for, and they're not developing properly, because we'll cover the XP garbage later on. But it's just Shocker, the company that can't program budgets properly in Madden can't program budgets properly in the game. Crazy. So yeah, you're having it. This is affecting the transfer portal. It's affecting recruiting. It's a whole can of worms that will genuinely never be fixed, which is why, again, I was mocking all the content creators who wanted this to be in the game. EA is not an intelligent company enough to handle this problem. Otherwise, they would have fixed it in Madden years ago, but they never have. They never will. So congratulations, this now can of worms is now in this game, in which nobody asked for it. I prefer the other way of doing it. There should be an option to just turn off the NIL, but EA made this an integral part of the game, so of course there will be no setting to fix it, because why would there be? Very quickly, we'll cover the staff. Coordinators, EA, this needs to get patched. Coordinators are such a problem in this game. If you guys were watching my live stream, you guys would know that I was spending literally thousands of my NIL or thousands of my blueprint points, whatever you want to call it, on retaining my OC and my DC. It got to a point where they were asking for 1,500 points a pop, which obviously I can't afford that. One of them left to go be an NFL coach and one left to go be a head coach, which is really irritating, because there's also perks in the game that do and don't work now. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but it's just the coordinators in general, very frustrating. As you guys can see, I have Vince Munch and John K as my OC and DC. They have 1 year remaining. If I choose to extend them, they will extend to a 3-year contract. If I choose to let them go or fire them and go get new coordinators, the new coordinators I'll hire from the carousel, I will only hire for a 1-year window, which is stupid. If I hire you from the portal or I hire you from the carousel, you should sign to a 3-year contract. I can't tell you the amount of gamers who haven't paid attention to this and went into the carousel and spent stupid amounts of money on, like, I want Kirby as my DC and Ryan Day as my OC. You can do that. You can spend stupid amounts of money to do that. But then what's funny is the first contract you give them from the carousel, it's a 1-year deal. The amount of times I have been hoed when doing this game, when playing this game, I go in, I want master motivators, I want talent developers, I want elite recruiters, whatever I'm looking for, I get them, and then the very next year, I have to re-sign them. It's like, what do you mean I have to re-sign you? I just gave you a contract. Well, actually, I gave you a 1-year prove-it contract, which is stupid, because they were on my team. I made them more successful. I gave them coach upgrades because they were, leeching off of my success. I now owe them quadruple the rate I just paid them for. Don't believe me? I have several, 8 to 12 hour live streams on my channel. Stream almost every single day around 6 o'clock CST. Go and watch it if you guys want. But the amount of times I was able to purchase a coach for like a reasonable amount of, tokens, we're talking maybe 200 to 300 tokens, which is not a crazy amount. They were on my team for 1 year. We went, 16-0, we went 15-1, whatever, we went 12-2, whatever the record was. We had a very good year. And then their 1-year rental was up, and I have to go negotiate for their next contract, and they want quadruple the rate because I made them a better coordinator. It's like, that makes no sense. It's like, you were happy a year ago signing for 200, now you want 1,000, and the only thing that changed was that you were on my team with my success. So then you're spending so much money to not just get new coordinators, but just to retain them for more than a singular year. It's stupid. When you get them from the carousel, it should be a 3-year contract. I shouldn't have to renegotiate with my OC and DC within 1 year of signing them from the carousel. Absolutely stupid. The next thing we're going to cover in this game, and I have a whole video breaking this down, but the support staff management, this stuff is stupid. This stuff is genuinely game breaking, and small programs don't have the money, they don't have the luxury to afford most of these things. But when you do unlock this stuff, it genuinely makes the game stupid. Speaking of one of the ways it makes the game stupid, as you guys can see, the support staff management, this increases your gains from the off-season training and just progression in general. This is weekly practice. It's everything by 20%, which is huge, because you would be thinking, oh, that must be insane. But how EA Sports balanced this shit from last year is they reduced the base game XP for not just your coach, but for your players. Your players now are earning significantly less tokens than they were last year. So, yes, this sounds cool on paper to have my guys progress 20% faster. They're not really progressing 20% faster because the base rates were hindered like it was for the coaching staff. So, it's a cool thing on paper, but in practice, they just messed the base game feature to force you to buy this stuff. Speaking of which, recruiting hours. They messed with the recruiting hours. You now get less recruiting hours than you did prior unless you buy these perks. Which, again, it's like I'm beating a dead horse here. Why am I getting penalized for playing the game the normal way? Why are you shaving away from the core features, but then giving me this? Now, I will tell you, if you do buy this perk, you will actually have more hours in this game than you had last year. But again, it requires purchasing something, which is super scummy. All of these perks should not take away from the base game mechanics, and they should be additive, right? I believe the old cap last year was $1,250 in the regular recruiting, or maybe it was $1,000 in regular recruiting. Now the current cap is like, I want to say like 13 or 1400, and then the transfer portal is like 15 or 1600. Obviously, this makes a big deal, but again, they should add to the base game features, not reduce the base game features because they're adding these OP perks. NIL is the end-all be-all in this game. This is the most overpowered perk in the game. This 30% reduction to expectation is the most important thing in Dynasty mode. I will have a whole video on this eventually. If you don't have this, you basically can't recruit players. This is too important. Again, why are you making the base NIL rates for players so exuberantly expensive? But it's like you buy this perk and the game's normal. Again, it feels like for every one of these perks, the developers couldn't justify putting them into the game, and so they hampered the base features to heavily, well, if you buy this, it's less of a pain point. Well, why does it have to be a pain point when you could just make the game normal and fun and have all of this stuff, again, add on to the experience, not subtract from it? This is literally just give you extra points. This is also a really, really, really overpowered thing. EA knows you're going to be spending points like crazy, so giving you a way of earning more points, very, very, very important. And this, acquisition department, you have to buy this, right? You can't go crazy and spend a lot of your things on these perks, because you guys can see 1750, 1500, 1500, 1250. EA made these really expensive because they're really overpowered. If you just buy these for full price, you will virtually have no staff points going year in, year out, which is why you have the reduction. Why? Why make these so stupidly overpowered and stupidly expensive when you could just make them a little worse, make them cheaper, make them be like, you know what, I really don't want the extra hours. I'm already recruiting fine. And it's just, this feels really dumb. Also, if you, a little Yu-Gi-Oh reference for you guys, but it feels like if you have all 5 of these in your 5-star program, you feel like you have Exodia, where you just can't lose because you're able to buy everyone you want. You can recruit out at 35 plus people a year. It's really dumb that they hurt the base game features to make this garbage, and then you kind of have to buy it. I also don't believe there's a point in buying anything below plat. Just save for plat and go from there. Bronze and silver and gold, virtually, they're just worse than the plat perks, so then just don't buy that. Then we're going to get the facilities. It's really cool. You can upgrade your facilities manually in this game. I will give EA props for that, right? I do like that feature they've done. However, we get to the equipment slots, and we're going to cover the next major issue I have with this game. As you guys can see in the bottom left of your screen with brand equipment, it gives me a plus 50 for athletic facility grade, but there's a little hourglass next to it because EA has implemented time-based perks into this game. This is coming from Madden, which I was screaming, please don't do this. Please don't add this from Madden. It's a horrible feature. When I buy a damn perk, I want the perk to fucking work. I don't want the perk to work for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, 31 weeks. Let me have the perk. If you guys recall, for your staff, and you can look at these perks don't have a time limit, right? They just work. Whereas these perks, for some weird reason, can't explain, but for your facilities, they have a restriction on how much you can use them, which is really, really, really dumb. Speaking of which, you can spend a bunch of points to upgrade your letter, which is cool, but if you don't keep maintaining it, your letter will regress, which I guess is kind of fair, right? You gotta, keep your workroom clean, and I guess that does make sense to an extent, but you gotta buy a perk to do that, right? Which is like, okay, yet another thing EA's making me buy a perk for. That's kind of irritating, but whatever. Next, we get to something we'll cover in like a week or so. Actually, no, I will save that for when we do cover that in this very long yap session. And we can't do recruiting because we haven't done that yet, and NIL. So that's pretty much everything wrong from the game just off the initial menu when you're making the league in the first few tabs. Let's go ahead and hop into recruiting, because recruiting is just as bad in this game as it was in 26. I would argue actually worse in this game. For recruiting, let's go ahead and start with 5 stars. Now, mind you, Rice, the school I am currently using for this video, is a 1.5 star program, which is kind of insane that a 1.5 star program has like A pluses. Very cool, EA. Appreciate you, big dog. But yeah, we're a 1.5 star program. So if I were to go and try to find a 5 star, as you guys can see, I'm going to have to spend bare minimum 325 points just to even have a chance to fight for this dude, which I think is fair. I think objectively, no 1 to 0 star program, hell, even a 2 star program, should ever be getting a 5 star. So I think this price gouging is perfectly fair for 5 star prospects. These small programs shouldn't be getting 5 stars. It was ridiculous last year they were getting 5 stars. I can agree with this. Then you can go to 4 stars if the game wants to load. There we go. And as you guys can see, a 4 star is basically costing me 100 points less, which at this point is, this is still, you know, I will say reasonable to an extent, but if I'm going to be spending a lot of money of my NIL, I'm just going to fork over the extra 100 NIL for a 5 star and not waste my time with a 4 star. But either way, I can justify how expensive 5 stars are. 4 stars, in my opinion, are a little too expensive, but still, this is, you know, fine. We're talking a couple percent here and there. 5 and 4 star fair. This is where I get to my biggest problem with recruiting. As you guys can see, there are 3 stars that are asking for 210 NIL just to go after them, right? I'm going to go back to 4 stars. 4 stars were asking for 215. Why in the world would I ever, and I mean ever, fork over 210 NIL for a damn 3 star when I can spend $5 extra for a 4 star? That makes no sense. These 3 stars are asking for a ludicrous amount of money. A ludicrous amount of money. Now, on my screen, you can say, well, Beastly, you don't have to go after the 3 stars that want cash. There are 3 stars that don't want money, and you are correct. That does exist. But as you guys can see, it's a fullback, punter, fullback, kicker. Even kickers want money. Look at this. This guy wants 25 NIL for a kicker. If you just scroll down to the cheapest actual spot, it's a $75 for a 3 star. Like, what are we doing, EA? I understand you don't want people with these bad schools getting 5 stars and 4 stars. I completely understand. Why are you penalizing me for going after 3 stars? In which like 60 to 65% of these dudes are going to be normal dev or impact dev. Actually, if you include impact dev, it's probably closer to 75, but you get the point. A vast majority of these dudes are trash. They won't develop because the nerfed XP rates for the players. You're going to have him for 5 years. He'll cap out as like a 77 overall. Why are they so expensive? And you might be saying, well, Beastly, you're a 1.5 star program, 3 stars, you know, they have to be expensive. They don't have to be, but whatever. As you guys can see, I have to spend $65 for a 2 star. A 2 star player. NIL shouldn't exist for 1 and 2 star prospects. This is stupid. And again, if you thought that the math, the rates were terrible for 3 stars, like 90% of 2 stars are normal dev or impact dev. There'll be a hard cap like 75 overall by the time they graduate. Like, these guys are terrible. So it doesn't matter if you're doing 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars. Everyone's ridiculously expensive, right? When you first start your rebuild, you can't recruit because the bad players you're supposed to be able to recruit for your bad programs will even cost you an arm and a leg, which makes the beginning part of your experience so much worse because you can't really get anybody to come to your team. And this logic also applies for the transfer portal as well. So it's like, why are 2 stars out here doing highway robbery? Now, mind you, the school I'm using, Rice, does have $2,000 to work with. So I can go after, you know, plenty of 3 stars, but I shouldn't have to do that. 3 stars should at a max cost me like 30 to 40 points at max. Most of them should be between probably 10 to 20 points because they're bad. Maybe you can have the elite devs and, you know, the elite 3 stars, maybe make them cost, you know, 40 or 50 points, but it shouldn't be costing me almost 100 plus for everybody, because then it makes the, you know, the initial part of your rebuild really bad. Now, the downside, though, and I guess I can go ahead and hop to a different save file to show you, this downside of this is that because EA has these players cartoonishly, hilariously overpriced when you're starting your rebuild, when you do eventually get your program have its feet set and you're stable, shout out my Coastal Carolina stream series. This has been very fun to do so far. We are in 2041, and we'll go to my National Signing Day. We will ignore the 30 plus 5 stars I signed. We will just filter. As you guys can see, I am now what is considered a big boy program. My program is a 4.5, yet we are a 4.5 star school. So we are a big boy. Now we'll filter by 5 stars, and as you'll see, 5 stars cost me nothing. I could buy every 5 star in the game if I felt like it. I could get the entire class of 5 stars. 4 stars virtually cost me nothing. They are virtually free, right? The most expensive one is a few hundred, and then the cheap ones are in the 50s, right? These guys are virtually worthless. And then 3 stars, for the most part, there's a couple of 3 stars that are still demanding like ludicrous amounts of money, which I'm not going to pay. But for the most part, as you guys can see, if you filter by 3 stars and just scroll down, there are so many 3 stars that want like $10 to $15 to $25 to come here, which makes sense. So they made the early parts of your rebuild absolute hell because everything is overpriced. And they made the end of your rebuild, once when you have the thing rolling, ridiculously easy because everybody wants nothing. So it's like, why? How, like, people were complaining in 25 and 26 that recruiting is too easy. I would genuinely say of all the games, 27 has the easiest recruiting cycle because once when you get past that 3 to 4 star school range, nothing costs money. So yeah, the beginning is rough, but the end is easier, right? I could just drop $85 on a 5 star and he's mine, which is just stupid because it's like, if I go down 1 star range from a 4.5 star program to a 3.5 star program, that dude's going to cost me like $200 to $300, which is just wild. And plus I'm not a 5 star. So if I was a 5 star, I would actually achieve more of a discount. I've seen 5 stars go for as little as like $60, 50 or $60. So NIL has ruined many things, including how you can sign players, budgeting, because just like last year, there is a problem with 4 and 5 star prospects and even 3 star prospects not being signed to teams. Last year, it was a very, very, very big problem that did persist. And this year, that problem has been exacerbated because now money's tied to it. So now there's 5, like last year, there were 5 stars that teams weren't going after, which made no sense. And you could get them for literally free. This year, that same concept exists. You just have to give them money, right? There are players that want to go to Georgia or Ohio State or, Alabama, whatever. They want to go there, but the teams just don't have the bread to give them. And so they go unrecruited, which is just insane to me. And it's not just 5 stars. There are 4 stars too. In fact, I can filter by just 4 stars right now, and we can scroll through. Look at all of these 4 stars that don't even have an offer. They have, because these schools can't afford their pricing. Now, I know EA has stated that in the next coming title update, they're going to change this to be not as common, but this is the same problem we had last year, but this year it's even worse of a problem because of money. Now it's not the fact that, why does Duke not have this 4-star right tackle? The kid wants to go to Duke. No one's offering. Duke should just win the 4-star right tackle, but Duke doesn't have the money. So it's like last year, the AI was just dumb by not going after the players. This year, the AI is still stupid, but now the AI doesn't have money. So they're double handicapped. And again, they're going to fix this, luckily. But why do we have to have an update mid-year to fix this when this was a problem in 25, a problem in 26, and a problem in 27? In fact, I wouldn't be overly shocked if the problem in 27 ends up persisting, which is just wild. Now, luckily for my YouTube video I'm filming, everyone seems to be signed. All the 5 stars have, so the big boy programs, but you can easily find seasons where 5 stars. I think there was a receiver in this class. What was his name? It was the guy that went to USC. Where was he? This gentleman. Actually, was it you? I forget which. It was this guy. Okay, this dude literally, Jameson Honeycutt, this guy literally got signed the final week of the transfer portal. Someone in my live stream pointed out there was a 5-star receiver that nobody was going after. I was like, no way. I went and looked, and unfortunately, I guess USC put more money into him than I did, but he was unrecruited going into the final week of the transfer portal. USC won him off literally 1 week of recruiting. So yeah, it's just between NIL and the game logic, it's so bad. It's such a problem, and they could fix the AI, they can fix the recruiting algorithm, they can fix, but they can't fix how the AI spends their money. I've seen schools like Georgia and Ohio State throw hundreds and hundreds of dollars or NIL points on normal dev prospects that suck. But I've seen 4- and 5-star players with gems, which are guaranteed dev traits, have 1 or 2 schools going after them. It's insane to me at how bad the recruiting is, which again, that does tie into the NIL, but it's just abysmal. And that should be, oh, nope. Gotta cover the next pain point. EA, for the love of God, can you fix the depth chart glitch in this game, please? Can you fix it? Or if it's not a glitch, can you give me a setting? Because this is the reason why so many people have bad rebuilds and they have bad uses with their playbooks, and why I always got comments last year for, I copied your settings, I copied your stuff, but had no success. It's because of your depth chart. If you guys don't know how the depth chart, the auto order or the auto reorder, I should say, works, is it goes based off your overall. There's a mechanic in this game that penalizes you for having a guy out of position. So unless they have the mental ability team player, you should never put them out of their spot. Otherwise, you will suffer a penalty. It's a pretty drastic penalty, right? They did that to make the mental ability actually worth getting from 25 to 26. Now in 27, it's the same thing. So I'm going to show ahead. Where's my O-line? The O-line's like the easy example I can give. As you guys can see, my right tackle, who's a 71, is actually a 73 at left tackle, so the game sees him as the highest overall player to play that, so the game's going to move him there. In the bottom right of your screen, he does not have team player, meaning whether I were to play the games out in-game or I were to simulate these games, he is going to objectively play worse because he's not in his actual spot. So every single year I play this game, I do a rebuild, I do anything, I have to spend between 15 and 25 minutes of my time on my stream just to go in and reorder my entire depth chart. As you guys can see, my right tackle is playing left tackle, my right guard's playing left guard, my left guard's playing right guard, my left tackle is playing right tackle, my left edge is playing my right edge is playing left edge, my Will is playing Sam, my Sam is playing, actually no, I don't have a Sam, I have just nothing but Wills on my team. But Beastly, why does this matter aside from the penalty? Let's say you don't care or your player is so good, his stats are so high that you can, trump the penalty. This also does impact the playing style deal breaker. So if you are ever wondering why, especially for linebackers or defensive linemen, okay, why did I go from having an A+ on the Sam linebacker in recruiting and then next week I have an F? It's because your Sam linebacker's not on the field, right? There's nothing but Wills. And because there's nothing but Wills, your Wills are accruing more stats, which is increasing the Wills playing style, but not the Sam's playing style. So if you ever want to cheese this, right, go into your depth chart. Let's say you want to get this 5-star Mike. Go in to that 5-star Mike that wants a playing style deal breaker. Go in and make all your linebackers Mikes. You will then inflate your stats for that category and have an automatic A+. Right? This was very cheesable last year, and spoiler alert, it's cheesable this year, and it's very frustrating. Another funny thing with the depth chart, as you guys will see, Tariq Watson is my #1 corner. If I scroll down in my depth chart to my slot corner, 9 times out of course, this is the one time that's my sub linebacker. Oopsies, I misclicked. Of course, this is the one time it doesn't actually happen, but a lot of the time, when you auto order your depth chart, your slot corner ends up being your #1 corner. So I can't tell you the amount of people I've seen who use my settings, my playbooks, all my stuff, but they don't fix their depth chart. And so their #1 DB is covering the 3rd or 4th best receiver on the other team. It's like, you want to guess what's going to happen when that 95 overall receiver on the other team is going against your 81 to 82 overall receiver or corner? You're going to get cooked. So the depth chart, your slot corner is always typically messed up. Your rush ends are also typically messed up. Now, in this case, of course, for the video, they're actually working. But a lot of the time, they will also throw linebackers to play your rush ends because of speed. And so this, again, kind of messes with sim. It messes with your stats. It messes with so much. So I have to waste so much time, and I have wasted so much time manually having to set my damn depth chart every year. And I would really love it if there was a setting like there is in Madden where all I want is the highest overall player at their normal spot that they're supposed to play. I don't care if I have 595 overall right ends. I want my starting left end to play left end, right? If I want to manually go in and make my backup right end my starting left end, I should manually be required to do that. Otherwise, the game should put the players where they're supposed to play in the game. So that pretty much now officially covers the entire menu. Let's go ahead and cover the next pain point I have. That's pretty bad. We will go and cover the new practice. This practice is nothing but a genuine pain in the ass. And here is why. So you get 4 options. You got full practice, limited practice, no practice, and a week off. Basically, if you run full practice, you get the most XP. If you run the week off, you get the least amount of XP or 0 XP. However, you do recover the most wear and tear. This system is supposed to be how much do you want to push your players for the XP, but also not push them too hard to where you break them via injury. If you do not go into the settings and disable all injuries, you will 100% lose several starting players on your team. Now, I don't remember if I do, or actually before I do this live in the video, let me go and make sure I have the injuries turned on just so you guys can see it for yourself. Injury is turned on. Perfect. So I have the default injury, the default sliders. Nothing has been changed. I'm going to go into my practice. I'm going to go full pads. This is week 0. The season literally just started. We're going to go in full pads. And as you'll see, we will scroll down via injuries and look at the wear and tear. This guy is already dead. His career wear and tear is just dead. But of course, for the video, nobody got injured. Of course they didn't. So we're just going to go in, and if I do this for like 3 or 4 more weeks, I can assure you, you will have guys dropping like flies. By week 6, week 7, week 8, you will have pretty much your entire team injured. It's so bad. And how Madden has fixed this is there's a setting in your franchise that's specifically called practice squad injuries, and you can turn that off. That doesn't exist in this menu for some weird reason. You have all injuries on or off. It's very stupid. It's very dumb that you basically, if you don't want your entire team dead by week 5, week 6, you have to turn injuries off. Same thing with wear and tear. Wear and tear in practice mode is insane. Genuinely, again, I was running limited practice in the early parts of my Coastal Carolina rebuild. I was specifically worried about wear and tear for my players, and I really didn't care about XP. And as a result, I ran limited practice pretty much all year. By the end of the year, my players were still dead. So it's like, okay, if I can't run full practice because my players are going to die, they'll just spontaneously explode. I have to run limited practice because I want some XP, but I don't want their wear and tear to be dead. It was just this whole the wear and tear in general in Sim is just so bad, especially considering I think EA changed some teams just spam hurry up, which takes more wear and tear from your players, and so it's really bad. We'll see if going into this practice we'll get any injuries, but of course it seems like while I'm recording the video, it's not going to happen. Do we have any injuries now? Probably not. A lot of guys with wear and tear problems already from their career, and no injuries in week 2. But either way, you call enough full practices during the year, you will have your entire depth chart go down like flies, especially by week 5, week 6, which is really, really, really bad. I guess also in this section, I can cover the sim. There has never been a worse sim engine that they've ever used for this game compared to 25 and 26. CFP 27 has objectively the worst sim engine I have ever seen. Here is some, screenshots and things I've taken from my live streams that I want to show you guys that does involve the sim engine. It's so bad. So the first funniest screenshot I'm going to show you from my live streams, which if you don't believe me, go find the VODs on my channel and go watch it yourself. You guys might not realize what you're looking at here, but in one of the games I simmed early on in my rebuild, I have a 72 overall pocket passing quarterback. My QB threw the ball 72 times. Now, I don't have the screenshot in front of me on what the final score of this game was, but I believe the final score of the game was like 32-28. It wasn't like this crazy high-scoring game. My quarterback was just excessively throwing the ball. Like, there is no reason why a 72 overall quarterback should be throwing the ball in Sim 72 times. Very funny they're the same overall. There are attempts, but This was like the first of many just stupid things I've noticed in Sim, where sometimes your quarterback might throw the ball 85 times, right? Sometimes your quarterback might throw the ball 10 times. I've seen Wisconsin in Sim win games on 9 pass attempts, which just makes no sense. Like, how are you winning with 9 pass attempts? This is just, the Sim logic and the Sim engine is so bad. Like, genuinely, what are we doing? Like it's so bad. Another very common problem that has unfortunately returned in Sim. This is a problem in Fast Sim. It's a problem in Menu Sim. It's a problem in Slow Sim. It's in Sim in general. The excessive scoring by your own team or the CPU team, it works both ways, against yourself is insane. If you do, again, it's kind of different when you play the games, but if you do Menu Sim or you do in-game Fast Sim or in-game Slow Sim, you will just have moments happen where the CPU will score like 30 to 40 points in one quarter, which just makes no sense. If you look at this game example versus Miami, they could not score the entire game. To be fair, we couldn't score the entire game, right? We were, winning 10-7 first quarter. Going into halftime, we were winning 17-14. Going into the third quarter, like, we were pretty even, right? And then into the fourth quarter, Miami does something they've never been able to do the entire game. Score more than 1 touchdown the entire quarter. They scored 4. And this, unfortunately, just spontaneously happens in Sim sometimes. It doesn't matter if you're playing a 60 overall team or if you're playing a 99 overall God Squad. Sometimes the CPU will just say, no, we're dropping 40 points. No, we're dropping 38 points. No, we're dropping 30 points. It's like, this is stupid. They couldn't score 30 points through 3 quarters. Now they're scoring 30 points in a quarter. What are we doing? And also, unfortunately, I have to be the bearer of bad news here, but the exploit, the glitch with kick returns / punt returns fumbling is also back in this game. If you guys don't know, in CFB 26, if you were, especially, it was really bad when you're fast simming, but if you fast sim or menu sim, a lot of the times when you have these very rampant quarters in which lots of scoring gets done, it's mostly because you have your kick returner or punt returner will fumble like 3 or 4 times. I can't tell you, God is my witness, I'm not trolling. I can, I have so much footage I can show you guys, especially in my private leagues with my friends, where I have straight up had crazy comebacks on the computer because teams like Georgia will fumble 5 punts in a row or 5 kick returns in a row, and I score a excessive amount of points in one quarter. That problem is back, in which that is what happened in this Miami versus Coastal Carolina game. My kick returner just fumbled in the final few minutes of the game several times, which gave Miami several free touchdowns. And it doesn't really matter who you have back there. You could have a dude with 99 carrying or a guy with 12 carrying. You could have a guy with the 99 kick return rating or no kick return rating. You're just going to fumble. And if you go and watch your team in Fast Sim, the Fast Sim ones are even funnier. I think I had one last night on my stream. We were playing, I want to say it was Wisconsin again. Maybe it was USC. I forget who I was playing exactly, but I was playing somebody on stream. And it was like 10-10 or 13-13 going into the fourth quarter. And then the final score of the game was like 48-13. I walked out of my room to go get something to drink to come back. And I was like, how do we score 50 points? And I went and checked. And the other team just kept fumbling over and over and over again, in which my team scooped it up and either scored or was on like the 5-yard line. And then we scored one play. And we went from being a very close defensive ball game in which no offense could really score into these games in which, you're scoring excessively because kick returners and punt returners, for some reason, fumble way too much, especially in Fast Sim, but Sim in general, it's genuinely insane. And then another one of my all-time favorite screenshots. Again, if you want to go see these for more context, go watch the streams. But this was a more recent screenshot. This was about like 4 or 3 seasons ago. Number 1, Wisconsin versus number 2, Coastal Carolina. I believe this was a national championship game, I do believe. But as you guys can see, right, we were very close in the scoreboard. We lost by 3 points. So we must have had a very close game, Beastly, if you only lost by 3 points, right? Let's go down and look at the first downs, right? I had 19 first downs. They had 14 first downs, which is like, okay, I had more first downs. Total yards of offense, I was in the 450s. They were in the 430s. Okay, my offense was better. My offense had 17 more total plays than their offense did. However, if you look at the rest of the stats, yards per play, Wisconsin had 7.2 yards per play, which is insane. I had 5.6. We'll round it to 6. So, they had a 1.3. They averaged a little over a yard more than me per play. the rushing attempts. They had 29 rushing attempts for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is just insane. I, though, had 28 rushing attempts, which is almost as many, 115 yards and 1 touchdown. So they had like 80 or so yards more than me. But the attempts, the touchdowns, it's all pretty similar. Yards per rush, there was 6.7. Mine was 4.1. But then we get to the, other stats, which is kind of where things just fall off the fucking wagon here. If you look at the completions, attempts, and touchdowns, my QB played significantly better than their QB because their QB was a pure runner, I do believe. My guy had more yards, more touchdowns, less interceptions. I believe the Wisconsin QB went 2 for 2, 2 picks, 2 interceptions. And I'm like sitting here just, yeah, they did have a good rushing game on me for sure. But like that doesn't really matter considering the passing stats. Specifically, I know Wisconsin has more yards per pass than me, but they also had less completions. So of course that number would be skewed. We had 330 yards passing. They had 240. But then we get to the part that made me have an actual mental breakdown on stream. And I guess I have to clarify for this video. There was a gentleman that was like, you can get first downs on first downs, right? And that's a metric. I'm like, yes, I'm aware that's how that works. But Wisconsin was 2 for 12. That a 16% third down conversion rate. Which means when it is third down, what is the rate at which they get the first down from third down? They completed 2 of them. They were averaging 1 third down completion or third down conversion per half. Which is just the worst stats I have ever seen. And furthermore, if you look down at their fourth down percent, they were 0 for 1 on fourth down. On third and fourth down, Wisconsin literally completed 2 of them the entire game. We'll look at mine. My team was 7 for 15 on third down. We were 0 for 0 on fourth down because we didn't go for it. Offensively speaking, we should have won this game. Defensively speaking, my defense put Wisconsin in an absolute snuggie. The only way they won, as you guys can see in the fourth quarter, they scored 14 points. The only way they won was on back-to-back kick return fumbles. Going into the fourth quarter, we were winning 21-10. And then they had back-to-back kick return fumbles in which I lost. Like, this is just ridiculous how Wisconsin's special teams pretty much outperformed both their offense and defense and won them the game. And I would like to tell you it's an anomaly. This happens one every like 500 sims. No. Special teams in this game is ridiculous, both for yours and the other teams. Whether you're giving up kick return touchdowns or your special teams is just fumbling like they got prime Najee Harris hands. It's just, it's insane just how bad the sim is, especially when you're not playing the game. It's so bad. But I can tell you the sim engine's garbage. I can show you examples of the sim engine being garbage. I think this perfectly explains my point for me. As you guys can see, this was a game we won last night on stream. It was a national championship game, I do believe, in which my QB had 14 rushing attempts, which is a ton of rushing attempts considering that he has like 65, 60 speed. So I said he must have got sacked a ton because sacks do count as negative rushing attempts in college. So let me go see how many times he got sacked. My left tackle, who's a 95 overall, which by the way, this is not a 95 overall in CFB 25 or 26. This is a 95 overall in CFB 27, in which overalls were drastically nuked into oblivion. So even with all of the, XP nerfs, progression nerfs, and overall nerfs, he's still a 95, as you guys can see. My left tackle is 80 speed, mid-90s for awareness, mid-80s for agility, 99 pass block power, 99 pass block finesse, and spoiler alert, 99 pass block total. And he even had you good run blockings. You guys can't see in the bottom right corner. It just shows you run block power. But my guy was an insane tackle, and he gave up 5 sacks versus Tennessee in sim. What are we doing? I have the first overall pick in the draft. I have the best left tackle in college football, and he gave up 5 sacks. Now, I don't have the screenshot of it because it's from my stream, but if you go back and watch that stream footage of us playing Tennessee, they had a 70 overall starting center, and that 70 overall starting center gave up 0 pressures, 0 sacks. My 95 overall absolute juiced out of his mind left tackle performed worse than a 70 overall center. Yeah, the sim logic just feels like there's none there, actually. I gotta stop calling it the sim logic. There's no logic in this. It's just the sim is bad. Whether it's your team, the other team, special teams, it's just bad. It's garbage. So if you play every game, it probably won't affect you. But if you do sim, whether you're doing play the moments, whether you're simming offense, defense, whether you're doing it in the menu or you're doing it in game, it's terrible. Now, what I will say, so with the beautiful power of editing, you guys won't see any of that. My game just crashed, which I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna include this in the sim section, but there is so many glitches, whether it's recruiting or like that, where your game will just crash and not load you back in. That's a whole different tangent for a different section of this video, but yeah, we just crashed. Now we're back in though. But yeah, like I was saying, the sim engine is so bad, and this kind of piggybacks off how bad the sim engine is. But the developers, I forget what the guy's name, but he was on the Eric Rayweather interview that was done like a week or two ago. He was the guy on, the spokesman for the first Drive event that was done. He was a very prominent speaking point for this game. Basically, this gentleman and lots of other EA people said going into this game that it will not be a playbook-based game anymore. Which, if you guys don't know, in Madden and in CFB, you can pretty much have any player play anywhere for any stat. If you run the really good playbooks, they will always just print you stats, which has been very irritating. This year, they said in Sim that stats were going to matter. That stats would trump playbooks. Playbooks would not be the end-all, be-all. And I can show you very quickly with Heisman's, they are full of shit, right? Obviously, I got to have more time with the game to test it, but as you guys will see, there's a pretty obvious thing in which stats just don't matter like they should. It's strictly playbook-based. We'll go down my Heisman list. In 2026, Trinidad Chambliss wins Heisman for Ole Miss. Hey, that's not bad. It could happen in real life. Totally fine, right? So far, so good. Brad Jackson wins it for SMU. That's fine. Could see that happening. Not bad. Arrington Maiden wins it for Oklahoma, but so far not bad. 3 different teams, all of which were quarterbacks. Not that big of a deal. Then in 2029, Deuce Knight wins Heisman. It's like, okay, that's 2 Heismans in 4 years. Okay. Then in 2030, Rashad Garrison gets it. That's their 3rd Heisman in 5 years. And then in 2031, they have another QB, Brian Panetta, however you say his name, wins it, which at this point, if you're keeping track, that is 4 Heismans in 6 years went to Ole Miss. And I was like, oh, that's kind of insane. And then we had Tennessee that had 1, and then Boise had back-to-back Heismans. And I was like, okay, so if we're keeping track here, counting the number of teams that have won the Heisman since 2026, we have Ole Miss, which is 1, SMU, which is 2, Oklahoma, which is 3, Tennessee, which is 4, Boise, which is 5, Coastal Carolina, which we're not going to count because I'm using one of their playbooks, so I'm not going to count, USC, which is 6, and Missouri, which is 7. So there have been 7 different teams win the Heisman in 15 years. Again, I'm not going to count myself because I'm using their playbooks, so I'm pretty much their version of their team. So this is just crazy that if you just swap to the Ole Miss playbook, you will just, Ole Miss playbook, Oklahoma playbook, Tennessee playbook, you will just shit out Heismans. And it's the same thing with national championships. If you scroll through national, which we're going to ignore my team. We're going to ignore my stats because I'm using their playbook, so I'm basically a glorified version of the CPU teams. But as you will see, it's, the same few teams that make the Natty every single year. We got Oregon, Texas Tech. We got SMU versus Miami, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Ohio State, Duke, A&M, Oklahoma, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, Duke, Oklahoma, Arizona State, Miami. This was a fluke one. This was super cringe. And then, again, ignore us. I guess you can look at our other teams, but Notre Dame, Georgia, USC, A&M, Wisconsin, Duke, Wisconsin, Tennessee. It's the same, 7 or 8 teams that win the Heisman every year. It's the same 7 or 8 teams that win the Natty every year. It's insane that you can have these programs with literally 60 overall teams, and they will do the exact same every year. You have these programs with 90-plus overall teams. They will do the same every year. This notion of that playbooks won't be the end-all, be-all, that we want stats is complete nonsense. Another thing that I really can't show you on the screen, unfortunately, but I know EA Sports is going to go in and tweak this. but there have been, essentially, if you didn't play the launch of CFB 25, when CFB 25 launched, there was a bug in which EA calculated into their algorithm a 5% or so chance of an upset, right? The App State versus Michigan example, where you have those really bad programs that upset these really big programs. But that was happening on like a 30 or 40% rate, right? It was happening way too much in 25, and then the devs eventually nerfed it to where it basically never happened. Then in 26, that glitch kind of came back, but then was quickly squashed, and a third year in a row, it happens again, where you could have a 65, a 64 overall team versus a 99 absolute juice god squad, and you'll still lose. It's the fact that I am more terrified of playing a 65 overall Sam Houston team than I am playing 95 overall Michigan is a problem. That is a very, very, very big problem. The other really funny thing with this game is that I have noticed the away team and home team buff and debuff has been cranked up to 1,000. Almost all of my losses have occurred either to a really bad school or as the away team. I very rarely ever lose as the home team or as a neutral site team, ever. I don't know what they've done to the sim engine, but it genuinely feels like if you're going to lose a game, it's going to be to a crappy opponent if you're, playing in the away game. Right? Like my most recent loss, as you guys can see, 15-1, I won the Natty as well, was to like an 80 overall Penn State team that went 6-6. I was crushing everybody I played. I was beating Ohio State, I was beating Oregon, I was beating USC, I was beating Michigan. I was beating everybody. But then 6-6 Penn State absolute destroys me by like 35 points. Just makes no sense. So they need to go in and tweak the teams, right? There's no justifiable reason why these, 60 to 70 to low 80 overall teams are able to. I'm not saying that they shouldn't beat me, but I should never lose by 30 or 40 points to a program that I am 30 or 40 overall higher than. That makes no sense. So the whole sim engine needs to get touched up, whether you're the away team getting the away debuff, whether you're the home team getting the home buff, and much, much more. There is a lot of tune-ups that the sim engine needs, and I can already hear you typing, Beastly, this is a long rant. None of this stuff applies to me. I don't really care. You should, because in the games that you're not actually playing against the computer, the rest are getting simmed. So the health of the sim engine matters a ton, considering that you can't play every game, right? The computer will step in eventually, and you're going to get hoed on many things. So just be aware how bad it's going to be. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hop into this next portion. I know we've already covered how busted the NIL is, but I just want to show you another feature of the NIL that's really stupid. As you guys can see, I have a class of players I can bring back to my team, right? They have the expected offer. They have their current offer. So as you guys can see, for the starting running back, DeAndre Hardman, he's currently getting paid no money, and he wants 50. Okay, we're going to go in here and just give him a quick 50. And as you guys can see, the bar on the right hand of your screen is still red. Red meaning he's going to leave. It's like, okay, that makes no sense. He was getting paid 0. He's asking for 50. I'm giving him 50. Why is he still mad? Well, okay, we're just going to have to almost go double what we have to get him to come back, which is just insane. It's like, what is the point of even, he wants 20, I give him 20, and he's happy with 20. Do you see how stupid this is? Like, this guy wants 20, I gave him 20, he's happy. This guy wants 50, if I give him 55, he's mad. This guy wants 50, I gave him 50, he's still not happy. If I give him, 100, he's guaranteed to come back. This manually bringing dudes back is so awful. And of course, it's probably not going to happen now. Yeah, I don't have any players who can do it, but this is really buggy and really messy, especially when you're using, really good players down the road. Again, stop by the streams if you want to see it yourself, but there is a lot of issues where your players will ask for like 200 and the game will cap you at like 250. It's like, no game, he was asking for 200, but I got to give him 500, otherwise he's going to leave. But the game won't let you spend 500. There's like a hard limit on how much you can spend. So even if you do give him what he's asking for, he's not going to be happy. So I don't know what bug this is. I don't know. It needs to get fixed, though, because it's funny. that, sometimes the player wants 20, you give them what they want, they're happy. The player wants 40, I give him 40, he's unhappy. The player wants 50, I give him 55, now I'm giving him 60, he's still unhappy. So this entire system needs to be like everything, either completely overhauled or just give me a setting to remove it from the game, because this is so stupid. So the next thing I was going to go ahead and show you is with the change to the progression system for players and the change in the overall with how they calculate that stuff. They also did change the thresholds to get players drafted in this game. Now it seems like their stats and what they did while you were playing with them does factor their awards and everything into them getting drafted. Unfortunately, I just simmed 1 year. My team went 3-9, didn't do very well. And this is, the real life players with the real life roster, so a lot of their overalls are kind of high. But if you sim just a couple years into the future, you could get like 81, 82 overall players drafted now. It's a very common thing where you could have dudes who are not that good and would definitely never get drafted in years prior get drafted now, which makes maintaining a roster so hard when now your low overall backups might just decide, you know what, I'm going to go be a 7th or 6th round draft pick, so goodbye, coach. And you might end up losing, 4 or 5 guys at one spot versus the 1 or 2 that you used to expect to lose, which is just overall very frustrating. I've already covered the transfer portal and the NIL recruiting. It works the same way. Actually, I did lie. There is one thing about the transfer portal I do want to show you guys in this YAP session. So this is with the default settings. Everything I'm doing is with the default settings. As you guys can see in the transfer portal for this year in my Florida Gator best coach build video I was working on before I canned it, as you guys can see, I'm in the transfer portal. I have it filtered by 5 stars. There are 19 5 stars in the portal. 19. I looked this up online. I was arguing with my chat about this one day on my stream. On average, there's between 3 to maybe 5 5 stars that enter the portal. In this game, with the default settings, you could have upwards of 20-something 5 stars entering the portal, which is wild because there's only like 30 or 35 of them that enter the year, or enter every single year. So there shouldn't be more than half of the 5 stars going to a program and then instantly leaving within a year or two. The money is so bad. Everything is so bad. The sim's bad, the roster's bad, just the everything is bad. There's very few things about this season of CFB that genuinely makes me happy, which is very, very, very frustrating that I had all these expectations. You guys know the problems in 25, you know the problems in 26. Let's fix a few of these problems and then handle the new problems later, but you didn't fix any of those old problems, and now you got new problems to the list, which is just, why is there 19 people entering the portal? So this will be, unfortunately, another year where I have to significantly nerf the transfer portal. Otherwise, you can just go in there and have it cause chaos because, yes, as you guys could probably guess, because there's almost 25 stars, there's going to be like 300 to 400 4 stars. Those guys won't go on a team. Then they'll just despawn and then they'll disappear and, rosters will regress and be horrible. And it's so sad. It's so sad how we can have these problems year in, year out and nothing gets fixed. Now, while I'm upgrading my coach to prove my next point for the next thing I'm doing, I will give EA some props. At least this year, they did allow you to purchase your coordinators, which is kind of cool that now you can go in and pluck whoever you do and or don't want from this game. I did kind of auto sim that, which I did gloss over, which is cool. You can now pluck your own guys. However, the issue is like, you only get them for a 1-year rental before you got to give them another Supermax contract because money purposes, and I can't even get the linebackers. That's sad, EA. However, a downside that does exist, even though you can now get your own guys that you want, is you still can't control what they spend their tokens on. So you might have, someone like this Master Motivator and this Elite Recruiter, right? They're going to only spend their tokens on these 2 things. But if this Master Motivator were to buy Recruiter, for example, it leaves the same problem where, yes, you could pluck the coordinators of your dreams, the guys you want the most, but they're going to buy random stuff, which will then make having them on your team very annoying, that they're not upgrading the stat they're supposed to be upgrading, or they're upgrading the tree they're not. And then because the slow XP rates, it'll take them 30 years like you to get max level, so you're not going to have any assisting staff for very long. And again, I didn't wake up to want to make a 3-hour-long rant video to beach and bash on EA, but EA, can you please fix your coordinator spawning engine? Because after like 6 to 8 years in Sim, Talent developers, strategists, and architects just won't exist. If you sim far enough into the future, every coordinator will be a recruiter, a tactician, and a motivator. Maybe an elite recruiter, maybe a scheme guru, and maybe a master motivator. But every coordinator will be a base tree, and the hybrids will just never spawn. So if you want that talent developer OC or DC, you're only going to have him for maybe 4 or 5 years, and then he's going to leave to go be a head coach in the NFL or ask for like 2,000 staff points, which is just too much money to really do anything with, and leave and go extinct. So last year was nice that you could keep your staff forever. If you knew what perks to buy and what settings to have, you can have your coordinators forever. And this year, you can't. So you're going to be rotating through your coordinators far more than you used to. And what sucks is after about, again, 6 to 8 years, maybe even 9 years, the hybrid trees just don't exist. So you're just going to be recruiting the same recruiters, the same motivators, and the same tacticians that everybody else does. And there's really nothing you can do to stop the game from doing that. So we get one cool benefit being able to pick our own coordinators, but they still haven't fixed how the coordinators spend their tokens. They haven't fixed, how to... It's just so many issues that they get one positive, but in EA fashion, there's like 35 negatives. So go figure. And then we're going to save the worst problem for the very end. The thing that really grinds my gears. I can tolerate having bad sim engines. I can tolerate having all this nonsense in my game. There's settings I can change. There's things I can do. However, this genuinely broke me and made me so unbelievably mad that there are so many problems in this damn game. And EA chose to make this one of the things they fucked with that nobody asked for, nobody needed. Typical EA, they change stuff nobody wants changed, and they add stuff that nobody wants. As you guys can see, we're on the transfer/player training thing for the off season. I'm going to go into this receiver. This menu, fine, right? The new character models, they don't look like 18-year-olds or 22-year-olds. That they promise to have less grown men look like college athletes, and they look like grown men and college athletes the same. But this menu, fine. The ratings menu, what on God's green name is this? Why is it that we have it went backwards? Now we're using tiny black squares that looks like the cubing paper you used to use back in middle school math. Like, what are we doing? Like genuinely, what is this? This is horrific. This is awful. How did we go from this gigantic, good system? The HUD in this game in general is just terrible, right? Whether it's a main screen, this screen, it's horrible. But as you just saw, my guy has impact development. And I bought the perk to give him more tokens. This is one of many things in this section I'm going to, really hammer home here. The base XP rates have been nerfed across the board to incentivize you, to force you to buy the facilities to give you more XP. Otherwise, you would never do it, and, you get punished. So the XP nerf, my guy is 24, 23 tokens I just spent on this player with impact development, and he's barely an 81 overall. Right, players now are a drastically lower overall than they used to be, and they have significantly less tokens than they used to be, which is just so sad. And then, you know what, we're going to just, on top of many things, the menu being trash in upgrading, there also is no way of fast upgrading your players. So, like, if I want to go in and manually upgrade my players, which, spoiler alert, I have to go in here and just hold A and manually upgrade my pass blocking over and over and over and over. And this is just so slow. This is the same problem we had last year. I was spending hours of my life fixing my depth chart, upgrading my players, and doing the boring, tedious, monotonous tasks when you can't be like 2K and just give me an auto spend thing. Like, hey, coach, would you like to dump his 25 tokens into pass, blocking? Yeah, sure. Well, Beastly, that's already a feature in the game. Just use auto upgrade. You don't want to use auto upgrade because auto upgrade's really dumb. Auto upgrade will upgrade the stats that your archetype doesn't really care about, and it'll buy useless abilities that mean nothing in sim. So they're just wasting your tokens. And so now, like, this guy's a 72 this year, and last year he'd probably have been like an 80 or an 81. Like, the overall nerf, the XP nerf for your coach and your players, the menus, it's such a step back, man. Like, I don't know how we got worse from 26, but we somehow managed to get significantly worse than 26. This game just feels like some lifeless AI slop that just, it genuinely breaks my heart that it's devolved this much from just 3 years ago when 25 came out. It's so sad. But Beastly, if you don't want to spend your time upgrading your backups like you did the previous year with manual progression, which I'm currently set to, you don't have to. Just upgrade the starters and move on with your life. You can't anymore, because if you advance past this week, the game will auto-spend your tokens. So now, to prevent the game from fucking me and making the game spend tokens on abilities that don't matter, or to buy upgrades and stats that don't do anything, I have to manually upgrade every single person on my roster. Do you guys even comprehend how much time that would take to manually upgrade almost 85 people on your roster? Like, that is just so stupid. I'm on manual progression. That is the point of manual progression. If I don't want them to progress manually, they shouldn't progress. It shouldn't be mostly manual progression. It's manual progression. What are we doing? And so I can go ahead and show you. If you don't understand like what I mean by this, is we'll just go in and look at a quarterback. This pocket passer, Colin Cody, as you guys can see, pocket passers. Oh, he's kind of, you know, super skill cap. So I guess every one of this team is going to be skill cap. So that's not a really good, you know what? I'm going to swap to my other save file with actual good players with dev traits just to show you what I'm referring to. But what the game will do is it'll upgrade their non-dominant stats. So for example, on a pass protecting tackle, all you need is pass blocking and IQ. But the CPU will still upgrade run blocking, even though the run blocking literally does nothing. So or like abilities. It's wasting so many abilities. Am I right tackle? Who is it? Yeah, like I could just show you right now with Damon Mines, right? The CPU has no reason to upgrade run blocking because it won't change his overall, right? I'll upgrade all 25 tokens into run blocking. As you can see, it's never going to change his overall. He will be a 76 from now and a 76 till the end. He's a 76. How the game is programmed to auto-upgrade you is to upgrade each one of these buckets equally. And then when you achieve a certain section equally, it'll then go for the abilities. Which means players that used to be like 99 overalls are like 90 overalls now, and mid-90 players back then are now like 85s now, and just, it's a terrible system. And it's also really bad for defensive ends, because as you guys will see, I have a speed rusher, Robert Huzine, however you say his last name. I have a speed rusher. Obviously, the most important stats for a speed rusher is obviously finesse move, speed, block shedding, and IQ. Power and power moves does nothing for speed rushers. But the CPU, as you can see, is still upgrading power moves. This doesn't do anything. You might get one overall bump for every like 15 buckets you do. And I can assure you, you can go through my entire team and find stuff, right? Like, where's a pocket passer? There's going to be pocket passers. I don't know if this guy is a good example or not, but there's going to be pocket passers where the CPU will upgrade their... Oh, you can see it right here. Why in the world does my pocket passing QB have elusiveness and speed upgrades? He's a pocket passer. He should be upgrading accuracy, throw power, and IQ. So unless I manually go in and upgrade every single person on my team, which is the most slow and tedious process, the CPU will just break them and make them terrible. So of all the problems, of all the bugs, all the glitches, all the exploits, all the things wrong with Dynasty this year currently as of July 11th of me recording this rant, the game-breaking problem for me, the one that broke my back, is the fact that the game is now forcing me to spend my players' tokens every year, regardless if I'm on automatic or manual. And the game is essentially screwing me, saying if I don't want to spend an hour of my life going in to slowly manually upgrade every player on my team to guarantee they will spend their tokens where they need to be as effective as humanly possible, the game will do it itself and ruin my players. Typical EA fashion, you do one thing right, you break 15 other features, and you add features to the game nobody genuinely wanted or asked for, and now us, the consumer, has to suffer. Some of these things, I'm sure, will be fixed over time. Some of these will not be. Some of these we will be dealing with these all year. New problems, same problems. Either way, problems that we didn't ask for, but unfortunately, people like me, the content creators, and you, the average consumer, has to deal with. So, hope you guys enjoyed my rant. There are probably things I forgot to include in this 3-4 hour long video that I'm hopefully going to chop down to being an hour to hour and a half. Oh, I forgot a glitch right now at the very end of the video. So all you keen end watchers, for all of you guys who did stick towards the end of the video, go ahead and leave a popcorn emoji down below. That way I know you've watched the entire video. But the transfer portal is also bugged again in CFB 25 and 26. Or not 26, I think it was just 25. But either way, there was a point in time in which you got people from the transfer portal. They wouldn't use your off-season training and they would have no tokens. That's a bug that's back in the game. You can get 5 and 4 stars from the portal and they'll have like 3 tokens to work with, and it's very bad. So that bug's in the game. There's probably other bugs and exploits I forgot about in my hours and hours of ranting and yapping. But either way, currently my initial thoughts are this is objectively the worst game mode they've made of the 3 dynasties. I think, CFB 25 as an experience with a solid like 7 to 7.5 out of 10. I think it laid a very solid groundwork and really had a very good initial step towards the, CFB experience. CFB 26 was objectively worse in almost every way, shape, and form. I would give that game a solid like 4.5 or a 5 out of 10. It was just a worse version, a more inferior version of CFB 25. In CFB 26, they did give us the ability to manually spend our tokens, which was pretty cool. But again, they fixed nothing else and made more problems. And then this game took all of the problems that existed in 25 and 26 and luckily brought them forward, along with making new problems that unfortunately may or may not ever go unresolved. So currently, I'm giving this game a 3 out of 10. I am not covering in this video gameplay. I'm not covering Ultimate Team, and I'm not going to cover Road to the CFB or Mascot Mode. This was simply a Dynasty rant. Worst Dynasty experience by far. And again, hopefully some things can be ironed out with updates, but I have zero hope going into 28 that at the progression that EA is going, or regression, I should say, that next year Dynasty is going to be somehow worse than this. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below, and let's get to them shout out, shall we? As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on what every time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, give me a follow or sub on Twitch. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you can, please become a member. Memberships support the channel a ton. You get early access to all my videos, whether it's a few hours early, days early, or weeks/months early. Early access to my content, perks in the Discord, perks in the streams, and much, much more. So I'd greatly appreciate it and support me out a ton. Much love to you guys. Appreciate all you beautiful bastards on screen right here. Appreciate y'all. Much love. And I will see you when I see you. Deuces.